Welcome back. Now, this afternoon, we're taking you back to the Chereponi district in the northeast region where the conflict between the Kokumbas and the Chokosis continue to impact lives in different ways. Now, we've heard already that health workers, teachers, and other government workers are deserting the area. So the question is, how are hospitals, for instance, dealing with those who suffer gunshot wounds and other injuries as a result of the conflict? Now, we have the example of the main hospital in Chereponi, where as many as, well, quite a number of nurses and doctors have left, leaving just one doctor and a skeleton staff. Already children who have also had their teachers desert the town, and they're saying they are unable to learn on their own because anytime they pick up a book, they hear gunshots. Worrying situation there. But of course, we have the story of one teacher who is defying the odds to remain and teach his pupils, who we know will be writing the BECE exams in the next few weeks. So, head of our security desk, Gifty Aidoo, has just returned from the area. She joins us. Must feel strange sitting on that side of the desk.
It does feel strange.
But look, we all followed with rapt attention while you brought us all the details of what was happening up in Chereponi, and you know, this story of people deserting their posts because of the conflict is troubling.
It is troubling.
Before we get to those details, I mean, I'm fascinated by some of the images that you brought back with you. I just wanted us to have a look at a few of them, a few of the images which really depict mayhem, chaos, and all of this is because of some disagreement over land. Now, we see you here speaking to some are these children?
So these are women.
These are women, okay.
Yes, these are women in one of the villages that I chanced upon, and I had gone there to find out from them, you know, how the situation is impacting them. But the thing I must say before I even go on is that it's very difficult to get women to speak to you, especially because it's the cultural conditioning is such that women hardly are at the forefront and they hardly speak. Once the men speak, that's it. And so if you look at this particular picture, the men that I spoke to are the ones who are seated there. And behind
and the women are in the back.
Exactly,
under
on the floor.
tree.
Yes, on the floor, under the tree there. So on the ground, the tree. So that's how I approach them, try to talk to them. And what they say, usually they won't give you much. They'll just tell you that, well, anytime the fight breaks out, our men send us away. So they send them away. For these people, they're very close to the Togo border. So they went to the Togo, they crossed over to Togo, and the past 5 days there hasn't been any gunshots, so they came back.
Wow.
So that was the situation.
Can you imagine? And of course, we see you there with your crew, all wearing the armored vests. You know, was that necessary? I mean, is that the level of danger that you guys were in all the time?
So you could say whether or not it's necessary is yes and no. If you are if you just look at what's happening in Chereponi, you say no, because there's a lot of security persons around. But if you want to go to, if you take it from the perspective of the soldiers and the police officers, it is very necessary because it is an unpredictable situation. You don't know what's going to happen next. And they tell me that some of the people hide in the bushes and they attack. And so sometimes you don't know, anything can come from anywhere.
Suddenly,
exactly. So you always have to be on guard.
Did you find that there were areas that you were advised not to go to? Yes,
there were areas. In fact, we moved from Tamale to Chereponi, and when you're going to Chereponi, there are several routes. I think the main two routes are from Yendi, so Tamale, Yendi. There's a town there called Wapuli, so Tamale, Yendi, Wapuli, Chereponi, and then there is Tamale, Saboba, Chereponi. We had to use the Tamale Saboba Chereponi because that was it was safer. According to, we went with police escorts. The police said it was safer and that they had roadblocks on the other side, the Yendi, Tamale Yendi side. So they said it wasn't safe for us to move, to use that route. So we had to use the other one. This afternoon though, the Member of Parliament sent me a message and he said, that the roadblocks, he was telling me that the roadblocks, I'm trying to read the text message, he said the roadblocks have been removed from that side. I know that the side of the Kokumbas, which is the Garikuka, there's a place called Garikuka where we were yesterday when the minister came. That place, there was a roadblock. When I got there, it had been dismantled. But I didn't know for the other side. So the minister, the MP for the area, the Chereponi MP sent me a text message not long ago, and because I'm trying to find the text message.
Yeah, in fact, I'd love to hear what he had to say. But one thing we do know for a fact is that many government workers found themselves fleeing, you know, the area. Even police, those who were, you know, tasked with looking after the population.
Well, the police did not flee, I must say.
Right.
So let me just, I have the message here. He says, I can confirm to you that the Naja, Tegenga and the Yendi roads are all opened. A bus from Chereponi today used the Yendi road. That's a breakthrough because the people had mounted roadblocks on the Chokosi side as much as on the Kokumba side. So back to your question about those who are fleeing. We know that the nurses, a lot of the nurses, first of all, yesterday we did a story about the teachers fleeing. So most of the teachers have left. For those who live in the villages, when they heard that their villages have been attacked, or those who are from the villages, when they heard their villages were attacked, they went to the village. You know, usually you want to go and help. That's what they do. And for those who live outside, like who are not from Chereponi at all, they've gone back. So yeah, from Cape Coast, from Water region, you go back because they tell me that this time it was getting close. You could hear the gunshots, even if you're in Chereponi, where the police and the soldiers are stationed. They were telling me that you could hear the gunshots. It felt like it was that close. Even though it usually happens in the villages. They said you could hear the gunshots in Chereponi. So yes, we know the teachers have left. Yesterday, the head teacher for one of the schools went to open the school. But yeah, for this particular school I went to, EP school, where that was not where the girl cried. For the EP school, there was only Form 3 students, GHS 3 students, and they had come because the teachers were organizing some special classes for them for BEC. And then there was students from another school who had joined them. So there were two JHS 3 students in one class, you know, trying to do something. When it comes to the health workers, the doctor there told me, there's Chereponi District Hospital, the doctor there told me he had 62 nurses. All of them have left, and there's only 8 of them. Wow. At the moment, there's only 8 of them. But he said they were able to manage the situation. And he talks about, you know, those who came in, he said they had gunshot wounds, so they would treat the gunshot wounds. Most of them were in safe places. You know, the gun had gone through, the bullet had gone through safe places. So we've been talking to the doctor, and we can listen to him.
This is the main one. This is the district hospital, but we have health centers and then chiefs compounds in all the sub-districts. And you are taking care of all of this? I am actually in charge of here, full time. But if there are any clinical issues in any of the, I'm called upon to sort it out. Okay. Yes.
We want to find out how you're dealing with the conflict so far as a medical doctor here and the person in charge of the districts.
Well, when the violence started, it started in the sub-districts. So you realize that most of the health workers who have to, you know, most of them, they fled to the district for safety, and that is, you know, for obvious reasons. So those in the sub-district will now be left with nobody to take care of them. Okay, and you know, the shooting, you know, started moving closer to the district here. So most of my nurses were also afraid, so they also had to leave. Okay, but most of the cases that we received from the areas where the violence were able to manage them because they were not very serious. They were the gunshot wounds to the limbs. I think there was only one that was to the trunk, which we referred to Togo. You know, there's a hospital just across the border, so we referred that case there. So most of them were able to handle. Okay.
This was a very difficult situation. How many? Yeah.
Yes, of course. I mean, most of our people, you know, have not witnessed anything like this. So, you know, when they start hearing gunshots, you see the fear that gripped them, and you know, and all that. So it's a difficult.
How many nurses do you have, and how many of them have left?
Majority of them have left. We have only 8 now at post. Over how many nurses? Over 62 nurses.
And you have only 8
We have
now.
only 8 on duty now.
Can you imagine a 56-person deficit?
Yeah.
You know, but they still manage to handle all the emergency cases, especially victims of the fighting.
That's
But
what
how
it
about
says.
just
Only one was referred.
okay, good. So how about just people who are generally ill and would need the hospital anyway?
I think some way somehow they're able to manage it. I don't know how they do it, but they're able to. He with the other 8 people are able to manage it. So I spoke to some of the women, mostly the people you find there at the hospital were mostly women. So I spoke to some of them. Again, it was very difficult for them to be articulate and to talk to me, but they were telling me how they expect that the nurses will come back now that since the minister went, it's been 5 days, no gunshot has been heard so far. They're expecting that the nurses will come back as the situation stabilizes. And they're also expecting that the doctors, there was one girl actually that I spoke to, she was quite upset because she said she has been there since morning. She's been there, she has to go back to school, but she's been there since morning. She hasn't had anybody attending to her, etc. But otherwise, I think they have managed the situation pretty well.
Yeah. Now, another place where there were difficulties with personnel were the schools, right?
Yes. So we were talking about this, and I said that most of the teachers have left. We spoke to the district NAT chairman, who is head teacher for the Chereponi EP Junior High School, and he is one of the few people who have, remained and are helping the children because they are going to write BEC next month, and they're very worried about the situation. But he also talked to me about how they're bringing other people from other schools, JHS 3 students, to come and join them. They were also worried that there are cucumbers who have fled Chereponi, who are also going to write the exams, and they're not coming back. They don't know what's going to happen to them, whether they will go on and write the exams or whether that will be the end of their education. And so I moved from there and I went to the Chereponi DA District Assembly School, which is where I found this girl. I found these girls and I was talking to them about what's going to happen. Their concern was that there is a cutoff point of 25. If you don't get 25, you get 25, you won't be placed. You can't go to school. And so it was that conversation I was having with the girls, in which she broke down.
That was very emotional.
It was.
Because as the conflict is going on, we cannot have all that mind to learn.
How does this make you feel? You are a young man growing up. You've seen your elders, some of your leaders fighting among themselves. How does that make you feel as a young man?
It makes me feel sad when I saw them going to just fight with their...
And if you have to advise them, I'm coming to you. If you have to, if you have an appeal to make to your elders and your leaders, those who are fighting among themselves, what will you tell? What kind of appeal will you make to them?
We will tell them to stop whatever that they are going to do. Because they're fighting us now. They say that we are going to, if you do not get 25, you will not go to school. We have to tell our parents and they will stop it.
If you get 25 in what? In the BEC?
BEC. You will go to school, but if you do not get it, you can't go to school.
So, what do you know about the conflict? I mean, do you know anything about it? Do you know why? What do you know about it?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Yes.
How will this affect your future? How do you think this will affect your future?
Because if that thing happens, we cannot do anything.
Those of you who have not spoken, come. Okay, you come. How do you think this will affect your future?
Well, this conflict now, the way it is, if you're in the house, you can learn. And as for me, I fear things bad. So because of this conflict, when I'm learning, I'm feeling fear in me.
You're feeling fear?
So I can't even learn. And I don't even know whether I'm very well prepared for the BEC.
But now that you have to write the exams, it's just next month. So you have to write. How are you going to write it? I mean, do you know how many subjects you have covered so far? Which subjects have you covered?
Like science and maths, social, and then English.
So you you spoke to me about fear. You say you are afraid. You're somebody, come forward. You're somebody who fears a lot. You have the fears of hearing gunshots or people fighting, and then there's also the fear of writing the exams. How are you going to manage these two and then write the exams?
Well, I'll just have to learn hard and pray to God so that I'll be able to write it and write it well.
Okay. Is there somebody else who wants to say something? Do you want to add something? You want to say something? Tell us your name.
My name is Amado Asia. We are appealing to the two ethnic groups to please stop the conflict because it is really affecting we the candidates. As at now, when we are in our various houses, we cannot do anything about it. So they should please stop the conflict because this year the cut-off grade is grade 25. And as we are in the house, we cannot do anything. I'm crying because we are suffering. The government should do something about this conflict because it is really affecting we the BC candidates because the cut-off grade is grade 25. And if we are not learning, what are we going to do in the BC? So we cannot do anything. So we please appeal to the two ethnic groups to please stop the conflict. And the government should do something about it so that it will help with the BC candidate to get what he wants in the near future.
Yeah. Whole nation touched by that very, very emotional moment that you captured there, Gifty.
And there are more emotional moments I'll be sharing as the days go by from Chereponi.
Yeah. Local government. I mean, what role have they had to play in all of this? How have they been positioned as this conflict has erupted yet again?
So the DCE is, of course, is the head of the DISEC, the security, and he's been. It's been a very interesting dynamic as far as the DC is concerned. Some people have accused him. They say that he is. They complain about his utterances. They said he's been biased. They have all kinds of complaints, and I have spoken to him, so we have responses to that. But in this soundbite that we're going to hear of him, he talks about how they're managing because a lot of their workers also left. He said he had about 90 people, and out of that 90 people, I think initially he said he has just about 3 of them left, and then later he said there's also about 30 more who are, like, I think, in other villages, but they've also left. So he was hoping that they'll come to work during the week. So essentially, the work at the district assembly, as is obvious, has come to a standstill.
The 96 also staff, but due to this unfortunate incident, about 36 flew the town, and hope to see them within the week or hopefully by the end of or close of this week. I hope to see majority of them. Well, this conflict situation, in the first place, it happened in 2008 June, where there was a disagreement between a piece of land, more 2 or 3 acres of land at Naduni. That was 2018 June then. Then it happened, we resolved, started mediation, all right, and getting closer to Christmas, we resumed that, or we all resolved that after Christmas, we are coming back with the stakeholders from both factions to have continued in January. But unfortunately, eve of the new year, we had a renewal of this conflict, starting from the same area, then spread over to other parts of the districts. Well, when it came to the attention of a district assembly, what came to the assembly of district assembly before June, was some parcel of land which are meant for farming rice, and that is where the assembly moved in and placed an injunction on, as well as the paramount chief also placed an injunction on. But little do we know that there was another 3 acres of land which they are to quarrel over. We got to know that one after the June incident. Well, and we never stopped there. After June and December, we continued. Then this one happened in January, and in January, along the line, we started mediation as well. We invited the stakeholders from both sides, that is, both Chereponi and Sawaba, our MP, DCs, and other opinion leaders were together. And our last meeting was 4th of March, where we were scheduling a day to visit Sawaba as well. Then on 16th of March, there was another renewed conflict around Naweku. Okay. Then that we thought that was the end, but unfortunately, this month was it another This month, last week, Saturday, it started again around the Saboba district, specifically Nambili and some other community had a dispute about a land. Then from there, Sunday, it sparkled into the Chereponi district as well. And that is why we are managing up to date. Yeah. What I'm saying so is that I think from the March 1, myself as the diocese chairman moved with the diocese committee to most of the communities. That was on the 10th and 11th. Then the weekend was Saturday, where we're having our regional congress to elect new members for the new Northeast region. I think I was there when this one happened. But we never lose hope. Fortunately, we call on the other opinion leaders, and they are being led by the Minister of Defense, with the Northern Regional Minister, Northeast, and other opinion leaders from both sides as well, where they were in the district on Friday.
Yeah, so I sent a figure of controversy there, but he seeks to lay out the history of the situation.
Yes, and what they're doing about it at the district level. So essentially, he talks about how this whole thing started, and we also know that there has been a peace process initiated, and the Chokosis and the Kokumbes were supposed to have met in Yendi as part of the peace process ongoing there. Yeah. And the week, I think a few days before that meeting, the conflict erupted. And then they were waiting. I think it happened somewhere in Naduli in January. And then as they waited, you know, they said the chief was speaking to the minister. He said, even as this happened, we said we will still go to Yendi for the meeting. And by the next week, there was another clash. And then he said, well, Monday we will still go. Before Monday, on Sunday, there was another clash. So that has essentially delayed that process. But they are hoping that they'll be able to continue with that process as time goes on.
Now, over the past 5 days at least, there has been an uneasy calm, and it appears to be de-escalating bit by bit every day. You've talked about some of the roadblocks being removed and so forth, a bit of normalcy returning to some areas at least. Do you think this is sustainable? From what you've seen, do you reckon we're on the path to the end of this? I think it's sustainable, but I think it's a very fragile success. They've achieved some success with the talks, but it's very fragile in the sense that it's an unpredictable situation. Anything can happen. The slightest hitch can jeopardize the entire thing. And so there's a need for follow-ups, consistent follow-ups to this place and to the process that has begun. You hear people say that the Minister for Defense, because he's a Kokumba person, should recuse himself, etc. I think that he has started something there. And he didn't just go by himself. He didn't just go with NPP people. He didn't just go with Kokumba people. He went with Chokosi leaders and Kokumba leaders in Accra and Kumasi. He went with NDC leaders. He went with former Northern Regional Minister, Moses Mabengba, who is an NDC man. The MP for the area, who is NDC, was part of the team. He actually was the one that addressed the Kokumas yesterday, because he's also a Kokuma there. So he has a team which is a bipartisan team. If you look at it, it's pretty much like a neutral team put together, and they went there. So I think that if we as a nation, if the key stakeholders, the peace brokers, will build on this that the defense minister has started, we're headed somewhere. There is still a lot of entrenched positions when you talk to both sides. They will say, well, we will not fight, but if you attack us, we will not sit down. And this is like verbatim, we will not fight, but if you attack us, we will not sit down. The Chokosis will say, we Chokosis don't want to fight, but if Kokumbes attack us, we'll fight. The Kokumbes will say, we Kokumbes don't want to fight, but if Chokosis attack us, we'll fight. So if nobody is fighting, then nobody is defending. Okay, so if we build on what has been achieved so far, it's been 5 days, no gunshots. So that's a good thing. Indeed. But we need to build on it. We don't need to go to sleep as we usually do with other things. We can't understate the value of the work you've done on this. Thank you so much. And of course, you're welcome back.
Thank you.
Gifty takes over
don't say
from tomorrow. I shouldn't say
because I'm not sure.
I've said
I can't promise you that.
Good to have you back, Gifty.
Good to be here, Kojo.